Okay, here we are. This is the third part of the interview. It's August 1st, 2024. And I'm with Grandpa again to do the last, looks like 12 or so questions here. All right, so you just got back from the houseboat. That was a bit of adventure, you're saying.
Yep.
Yeah, so the last thing I asked, was there any major compliments you didn't achieve? And we discussed that. And then so the follow-up of that
Did I
one.
actually answer that question? Are you sure of that?
I'm saying no sound detected. Let me see.
Yeah. Major accomplishments that I didn't. I don't remember you asked me that, but yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think we discussed that
Okay.
one.
If you find we didn't, we can add it sometime.
So kind of a tough one to jump right into, but it says this question was, what decade of your life did you feel was the best? Or let's say maybe you have some of the best memories, and why?
Well, that's a tough one.
It's a pretty tough one.
I mean, a lot happened from the time I met Janice to when my kids were born. And basically, I met Jan in '65, and in my '75, I had two boys, and a hell of a lot had happened. I mean, I hadn't even applied for dentistry when we got married, and then so all of dental school and all the summer jobs I had while I was in dental school, and then the rapid change of building a practice and a house. All those things happened within a very short period of time. You said decade, right? But yeah, six.
Whatever time frame.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, that would be, and so that was a very busy time. There were a lot of accomplishments, and not really any failures. And then then I had and then the second period where how did you phrase that? What?
it was just, what decade of your life was best, and why do you feel that way?
Yeah, I mean,
So 65, you were 16 to your 26. You had gone from, I guess, high school, university,
8 years of university.
medical school,
Yeah, dental.
dental school.
And
did you when was the house done? The first one was Rose Hill.
No, we lived in a place in Valley View, Knollwood. Nice little.
In Kamloops.
Yeah, in Kamloops, and I don't know. I remember we bought it for $39,000, and I had to borrow it from the bank, and I hadn't even graduated. That's the kind of way life was in those days.
And they lent it to you.
Oh yeah. Plus all the money. I hadn't graduated. They gave me the money, and I also was building a dental practice. That wasn't cheap, and they just gave it to me. They didn't even ask the question, what are you going to do if you don't graduate? I don't know. Maybe they might have phoned the faculty and said, is this guy going to graduate? But I don't know. So I mean, it was rapid, and then doing all the first out of the country, going to Hawaii, going to England, first abroad. All those things happened.
Before you were 26 or so?
No, not before I was 26, but
maybe like from when you're 16 to like 30, you just it's just
close
time.
Yeah. That was all happening. Yeah. So it was a very busy time of life, and then a huge shift where I ended up living with Marlene at Happy Lake, and all kinds of new stuff like motorbiking and skiing on the lake and all those activities around the lake and the ski hill. But we got a ski pass, and I got one for my kids, and so and then a huge shift when I moved down here. Sometimes I shake my head at that and wonder how the hell that all happened so fast. But you know, she, you know, I basically asked her the question. So, do you want me to leave? And all she said was something like, "Yeah," and that was it. I was out of there. Sold my practice, sold the building, moved to Salt Spring, and then a year later I met Pamela. So um, lots of drama, you know. Um, and I guess you could say also lots of accomplishments because I mean there were failures, but then there was always a rebound accomplishment or uh, new chapter.
So you really, so it kind of sounds like from what I'm hearing, you really cherished, I guess, that those like first 10 or 15 years of independence, of being a young man and kind of just striking your path.
Yeah, it was pretty focused. It that part of my life was about like what am I going to do for the rest of my life? Oh, dentistry sounds good. Wow, I got accepted, and hard work. I never imagined for a moment that I would fail or anything, even though 8 of the original 40 people in my first year dental class didn't graduate with that class. A couple of them failed and graduated later, and the rest of them just kind of disappeared into other things because they weren't focused enough. You had to really be focused and want to complete that. Like you were given a privilege of being accepted, and some people just wasted it. They were never focused from day one. I don't know. So, you think I answered that question?
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's good. I think, yeah, my takeaway was, those firsts, being independent, striking your path, finding your partner, having kids, and
I mean,
I think that's I think that's a pretty fair place to state, and a good reason why, because there is a lot of excitement in first in that time period.
yeah.
So, sorry, you want to say something?
No, it's good.
So I'm sorry we kind of stopped at a funny place last time. So some of these questions are a little
redundant or
no, just deep or like tough.
Oh yeah.
So this next one is, and it's only the second one, right? We're just starting here in the morning. If you could do something differently as a parent, what would it have been?
Oh my God. If I could have done something different as a parent. Well, I mean, it's easy to say. I mean, obviously, sometimes I think, wow, if I hadn't had 3 marriages, my kids might have turned out different. But then who knows whether that would have been different good or different bad. So you can't kind of you can't spend a lot of time with the what ifs. What if I didn't? What if I had? Read the question again. Sorry. This is because of my brain injury from my concussion. Just so everybody in the future will know, I'm a little spacey. But anyway.
And that's okay. If you could do something differently as a parent, what would it have been? I mean, I can just say right now already, just to help you a little, just because you mentioned with my kids already, and I've only had them for Ryan's 3 and a bit now.
Yeah.
Is patience, and I just like every day I feel like I have to try to be more patient because they just don't know how to do anything. They just don't have the emotional regulations. But
yeah, I don't spend a lot of time focused on I wish I had, wish this, wish that. You know, you. I like to think people are always doing the best they can, and when they don't appear to be doing all that well, uh, you know, it, it is a good idea to try and be as patient as possible because if you hang in there just at the time when things seem too much, things will happen where everything can shift like big time. So, but you know, I I don't apologize for that particularly. I mean, people can only hang in there so long, whether it's what they're doing, who they're with, what they're trying to accomplish. You can only hang in there so long before you just decide, no, it's too much energy. I'm not happy doing this, and uh, things change.
Mhm. So that wraps up the kind of what I labeled as the general life questions.
Yeah.
These next ones are a bit more about legacy or like looking to the future.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is as your grandchildren get older and become parents themselves, what advice would you give us?
Um, what I would give you, advice would I give you about that stage of your life when you're having kids and um,
You know, looking
just
to me, you know, Oliver, Liam, my brother, you know, we have kids. Is there something you'd want us to maybe think of or to remember as we go through that process of life?
well, um, I don't know whether it's specific to me. And some of it is about the fact that I live here, and obviously I'm going to be closer to people like you because you live here too. But you know, at 76 years old, I really expect my grandkids, for example, and my kids to call me to come up with ideas. Like, I was thinking of coming over this weekend, Grandpa, would that be okay? And I'd be, of course,
Mm-hmm.
unless there was something, unless I was on the houseboat like I just was or something. But um, because you know, that's my memory of how things evolved when I was a young adolescent, say 14 to 20, whatever. Um, my grandparents would never call me. They just would never. That didn't happen. You know, it wasn't because I don't even know why. I mean, it just didn't do that.
Well, they probably didn't grow up with phones in the house.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Your
Well,
grandparents?
yeah, true. They might not. Yeah, their life would have been different. They weren't phoning anybody like that for sure when they were kids. But um, yeah, I'm a bit. You know, I get a bit sad sometimes of it, that every you know the younger generations, my kids and my grandkids and my great grandkids, which that don't really count right now, but they don't. You're not in their awareness all that much. I mean, they're off doing their own stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't realize uh, life doesn't last forever, and you know, can't just say, well, you know, I'll be different when I'm 10 years from now, because 10 years from now I'll be lucky if I'm here. So, you know, I don't know.
So, I mean, so just to go back to that question, it kind of sounds like to me, as we move into becoming parents, is to maybe don't forget about maintaining those relationships
Absolutely.
with our own parents.
Yeah, for sure. Don't just think that or expect that that's not something that they should pay attention to. And I mean, they should or shouldn't do anything, but they have to realize uh, that if you want to maintain those relationships with your parents, with your grandparents, then do it. Don't just carry on with your life and totally forget your parents, your grandparents, because I think my 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 feeling is if you happen to do that, before you know it, they're not there, and you don't get that chance anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, your kids, it's a different dynamic because most parents are going to assume their kids are going to be there for the rest of their life, and in most cases, they are. But um, we've lost that with the way things have evolved, with people leaving their countries to come to Canada. Big things like that. With we're in those days you couldn't phone.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody phoned. They wouldn't have ever done it because it was too expensive, and there was no other way. I mean, traveling was not even possible. So, once they detached from their parents, their siblings, you might never have seen them again. So, you know,
If I may summarize again, it sounds like also what you're kind of saying is, as I move to have my own kids now and my cousins, um, don't think about the relationship with our own parents, which is their grandparents, right? As maybe as an obligation, but more of a privilege, because, like you're saying, there's a limited amount of time that my kids will get to know their grandparents for. Okay. Yeah, these ones are tough, Grandpa. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Okay, so what you need to do here, if you see me getting off track, it's possible that I've lost sight of the original question. You can rephrase it. Make it.
Yeah. And this is the first of the, ideally all of my 4 grandparents that I can do, but so we'll see how these go. Okay, this is a tough one as well. Looking back to, we're talking about this privilege of time with our parents or grandparents. Is there any conversations you wish you would have had or could have again with your parents that you would maybe want us to also dwell on, maybe think like,
Okay, well, here's a thought. Is that one of the things that I really appreciate about the effort I put into contacting and communicating with my grandmothers, because basically I was only 7 years old when my grandfather died, and I can't really have a lot. I don't remember that relationship all that well, but I wish I'd have actually not just taped my grandparents, but that I taped my parents. Never. So you're doing the same thing. It's like, well, why would I do my parents? They're here. They're going to be here for a long time. Well, maybe not. But but I wish I'd done that. And
so if you were to do that, is there like any conversations that you wish?
Well, sure. I mean,
you could have had with them.
A lot of the questions you're asking, but also more personal questions, since they were a more intimate part of your who you became. I never asked a lot of questions, certainly not on tape, ever, of my parents, and so nobody else did either. My kids sure didn't, right? So that's a missed opportunity.
And your dad passed. I remember my dad told me. I think he was
40.
He was like you, actually, like just 5 or 6 years old when your grandpa passed, right? Because your dad died in 91, right?
No, 84.
Sorry, 84.
40 years ago this year.
So my dad was only 12 when your dad passed. So he never really got a great chance to know him. I mean, he got to know him a bit, right? But
he got some pretty good quality time with him, both at my parents' place and at our place in Rose Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And things like going to Hawaii together and hiking down Haleakala Crater and sleeping overnight there, and things like that. And I took my dad gold panning, and let's see, that was 84. I don't know how many of my kids were there. I think they all were. I know Aaron was because I got a picture in my mind about it. But I wish I'd
So
interviewed them.
and so if you were to interview them, what would you want to discuss?
Same kind of questions you've asked me. Uh, it would have probably helped me parent for the rest of my life too, having feedback. But I never thought to do that. Like ask the tough questions to the kids in their 20s and 30s, as opposed to just focusing on grandparents. I mean, I know some of
Mm-hmm.
the impotence on grandparents is has to do with, wow, so much has happened in their life. They've changed so much. I want to know something about this. But the other point in doing it, of course, is you don't know how long people are going to be around. So if you want to do it, get on with it. But I didn't do that for my dad, and it didn't necessarily even feel appropriate to start asking him tough questions when he knows he's not going to live very long. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe it would have been totally appropriate. I don't know, but uh, it would have been interesting. I would have loved to, if I could go back, ask these same questions you're asking me to both my parents. I had a few more intimate conversations with my mother than my dad. We never talked on that level at all, but yeah, that would have been a good idea. So,
Okay. Um, okay. So the next one I have here is, what have you learned is the most important thing in life to focus on? Or what to you is the, I think I should say, what to you over your life experience has been the most important thing to focus on?
may sound a bit schmaltzy, but I remember in dental school, one of my professors came in and it was a class. I don't even know what the class was about, but he walks up to the board and in big letters put AWARD. And
Nowhere.
and that was the lecture. This is dentistry. Like, okay, come on, I know this. Well, the thing is, it stuck with me about as much as anything has about somebody communicating to me something that was useful. In that, and you can be unaware in lots of different ways, but get out of your head and be aware. Be aware of what's going on with your kids, with your spouse, with your parents. Just you don't want to be in this. I don't think it's a very nice feeling to be all of a sudden going, God, I guess I missed something there. Geez, maybe I should have done that instead of this. But just just don't be zoned out. Always try to be aware, because really, if you're not present in the relationship. You're not present at all to that person, and they will know at some level that you're not present. You're thinking of something else.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you the question? Huh?
Yeah. When I wrote it, I think I was also thinking in my own mind, like, career, relationship with my spouse,
Mm-hmm.
family,
Mm-hmm.
or you know, money, or like all these different facets, that spirituality, like these kind of like these broad pieces of life that sometimes we focus on, right? You meet someone and they're just all about fitness, maybe, or some people can be, they don't care about anything else but their family or their career. And would you have anything, if I tilted the question towards that you found has been uh, best to focus on in that aspect?
Um, just I would say do as much as you can to uh, help people that are important to you
Mm-hmm.
become the most they can be. Um, because when you stop paying attention to people, then you start losing any ability for them to learn from you. And you know, it has to do with giving people your attention, I guess. And it can happen from parents to kids, or from a person to their sibling. But um, focus as much as possible, enough time with the people that are important to you, so they don't feel like you're not there,
Mm-hmm.
or that you don't care,
Mm-hmm.
which could be almost the same thing. But
That's good. Thanks for sharing that.
because a lot of people will think the worst. Well, maybe they're mad at me. Maybe I didn't pay enough attention and they don't care. You know. Then the self talk is coming back at you to kind of wake you up, or you don't want to. Anyway, I think I answered that question.
All right. So, as these questions are about legacy and being at 76, I personally think you're still gonna live. I'm thinking I think until your 90s, but we never know. And I'm sure
Right.
this follow up question is something you've probably thought about a bit more than I have. I'm only 32, and it's what are your thoughts on death and dying? And just so you know, the follow up question is about being remembered and funerals and stuff. But this is more just like, what do you think? I guess maybe happens, and like
Mhm.
how do you feel about that process? Being in, like, let's say the last quarter of a life.
I It's not something that's ever bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as a non-religious person, I'm quite comfortable with the fact that every single living thing on this planet is here only for a short while, and sure, as long as I'm going to be alive, I don't want to be dwelling a lot, worrying a lot, or even trying to convince myself of certain things just because I want to know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm comfortable with the not knowing. Um, there, you know, I'm pretty not, well, I'm very non-religious, but that doesn't mean I'm not spiritual, and it doesn't mean that I just accept the fact that I don't know a lot of things about that. I don't know anything about that except what I can see in my life is that things are born, they live, they die. And I think I'm very lucky, and for whatever reason, that's the part I'm not quite sure about. Why, why wouldn't my beliefs, which are non-beliefs, why wouldn't they make me depressed or unhappy in some way? But they don't. Um, I think it's fascinating. Whatever the hell's going on, it's very fascinating. What do I think about the chances that I'll ever understand that, or that there's something after death? Um, I wouldn't put a lot of money on it.
That's okay. I mean,
Um,
that's your view.
well, I mean, we are so egocentric as human beings. We think we're the end all be all, and that we're so far above every other living creature on the earth. But you know, the more you learn about other beings, other when I say beings, I mean life on the earth. Um, there's really not that much difference. You know, uh, we just happen to be what we think is the most highly evolved organism on the planet. But maybe that's not even true. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Is it? no. I know you're not going anywhere anytime soon, but
No, you don't.
but such a tense topic to talk about. But I did want to touch on it.
Sure.
Was
I don't
like
care. Like I said, it doesn't bother
is
me.
it?
I would say no. I don't want to talk about that, but I don't care.
Do you feel like? I mean, I even think to get to 100 is such a blessing. So like I said, you're in the last quarter, but you could even maybe say the last third of a life you're maybe in now. Did it come? Did it take long? Does it feel like it took long to get to this age, or did it come? I'm kind of extrapolating on the same question, or was it like holy shit, I'm 76, you know?
Both are true.
Both.
Both. They may change from moment to moment, but sometimes it can feel like, wow, really, that was that long ago. And other times it was like, well, it just seems like yesterday. So the whole time thing, it gets a little weird. Um, I mean, I have photographs in my head. Mostly the photographs I have in my mind are about from photographs that somebody took or something, but that doesn't matter. Some of them are very experiential. And it seems like a very, very long time ago. But at the same time, you can especially look back at the last 10, 20 years. I mean, Pamela and I, we met 28 years ago. Both of us are quite amazed at that. We're going to have our 25th anniversary on the 16th of August. It's like, oh, wow. Was it that long ago?
Mm-hmm.
And it went so fast. It seemed like. Whereas when I think back about my life in Vancouver, say from born 1948 to 1962, 14 years old, we moved. But when people ask me where I grew up, I always say Vancouver because that's where I lived for 14 years. But that period of time seemed like both so long ago, and it took so long to get from 0 to 14.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas 14, again, is only half the time that I've known Pamela.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's all the life before that. It's a bit psychedelic when you think about it. Anyway, did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, that was great.
Okay.
So there's two separate questions here, but so we'll start with the first one, but they kind of have to do again are dealing with, death. And so this one is so it's saying it's not picking up anything, but I think it is.
I hope so.
It says, how do you want to be remembered? What's like the qualities, or like what do you think, when I pass they'll remember this about me, or they'll think this, or
Well, I hope people have enough wisdom to know that at whatever age they're at, and obviously it changes, and obviously you like to think you get wiser as you get older, but what would I like to be remembered as?
how would you like to be remembered?
I think one of the things that I appreciate about having learned is that just don't, when you're thinking about people, don't try to shut down the judgment. Because every single person experiences things differently, and every single person experiences different things. So, there's the thing that happened, and they're all different for everybody, and there's how you react to it, which is different for everybody. So, trying not to judge. I can't judge my grandfather because he abandoned his wife and 3 kids for 15 years. A lot of people would, but I wouldn't do that. So if you're thinking of good things or bad things that about an ancestor, you led a different life. You didn't experience the same things they did, and they became. I believe everybody is a product of their experiential, uh, of their experiences, and so I mean, I feel that way about violent crimes. Even I mean, there's no need to judge. The only thing you need to decide is what you're going to do about it. You know, or you're going to reach out to that person and have some empathy for them, or you just want to, end the person's life because that was an awful, evil thing to do. Whatever.
Yeah.
So I like to think everybody's doing the best they can with the experience they've had.
So when we bring that back to you, we bring that back to you, and you being remembered. It sounds like you don't want to be judged on your decisions sometimes in your life. And so how does that carry forward to your, let's say, your like the memory of your legacy?
Well, I because of all the things that happened in the past generations, they've all had complex interactions with me, the living me, to produce who I am today. For example, and this is I don't know, somebody will think it's weird maybe, but I think my history of, say, being married 3 times or having 2 marriages that failed have a lot to do with generational trauma, where for this is an example, my father saying to my mother that he didn't want her just sitting there with the kids on her lap because he didn't think that was very good for our future success to be like. He would almost say things like, well, we don't want him to grow up to be a mommy's boy, or what I mean.
Yeah.
But that had, him even thinking that or saying that to my mother was a direct result of the fact that he never knew his father until he was in his 20s. Well, almost, late teens.
He didn't have the example of what a father is, what you're kind of saying. He didn't.
No.
Until his 20s, really, right?
He didn't have an example, but he also based his ideas of how to raise children on something that was clearly somewhat dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they can be dysfunctional even if your parents stay together and, raise you. But I mean, your situations, you can relate to it. But he didn't have any history, or he didn't have any memory of having grown up in a house with 2 functional parents.
Mm-hmm. Totally
changed his way of dealing with things. But it also totally made me who I was. So, there's a lot to be said to, looking at, say, relationships that are successful. Some people, like the problem is some people stay together in a very dysfunctional way, and that has a very dysfunctional effect on their children.
Mm-hmm.
So the end all be all is not just to say, well, I'm never going to do that. I mean, that can be your intention, but it changes everything, and it developmentally changes everything. How did we do on answering that one? Say it again. See what I missed.
So the question was about how do you want to be remembered, and I think what you
don't judge. That was
you
my
touched.
first thought.
Yeah, I think what you touched on was that like
Everybody's doing the best they can with what they got.
If there's any judgments that, to maybe take a moment to pause on those judgments. I can empathize with you on that and relate, because I've definitely found, I mean, it's a bit of a unique interest, wanting to learn about your family story, but there's a lot of, as a young man, I had a lot of, and still struggle with sometimes, resentment or anger in how I was brought up.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see in some parts of my family some anger or resentments towards some parents.
Mm-hmm.
And when I learn about some of those parents or grandparents and how they were raised, it it softens the judgment. There may be some still. It's very hard to have none, but I always, you know, um, I think I'm just thinking right now of my other grandfather. I know his dad was a really bad, abusive alcoholic, and I know his children struggle to have relationships. And I think, well, who did he have to show him how to be a dad?
That's right.
And it's like, yeah, did he do things perfect? No, he could do some things better. But at the end of the day, just like you said, people are usually trying to do their best, and they're just sometimes just a product of their environment, right? There's some nurture, of course, or there's some nature to their being, but your environment can have a lot of impact. And I think those are good words you said about cautioning on the judgment.
Well, and there's good and bad, because obviously, in a lot of cases, a single mom raising her kids on her own, like my grandmother did, can sometimes do a much better job overall, uh, than a dysfunctional marriage,
Mm-hmm.
where the partners stay together. So, um, all those things, I find it very fascinating as to the effect of relationships on children, uh, and successful marriages on children. And again, some people pat themselves on the back because they stayed with an abusive partner, uh, till death do you part. But you know, I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I don't know whether that would have a positive or negative thing or effect on their kids. Um, it's interesting, very interesting.
You know, well, I have the utmost optimism for the success of my marriage.
And you should.
But
Yeah.
I remember one of the things my dad advised me on as I was looking for someone. It was always been important to find someone to me. I remember my dad telling me, look for someone who has parents that are together, and not just together, but in a healthy relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's perfect advice, but I'm very happy with my wife, and I think
Happy wife, happy life.
that's right. All right, I think we
did it.
I think we rounded that one out pretty good, because there's a couple more left.
Oh, there's a couple more. Okay.
This is like the last tough one, and the rest of them are pretty easy.
Okay. One more
Um,
tough one.
one more tougher
Okay.
one. What would you like people to say about you at your funeral?
Oh, Jesus. For some reason, I never asked these questions to my grandmother. So I don't know. At least I don't.
I guess I'd rather ask them than
Yeah, no, it's
than
okay.
them to be left unasked.
I guess just overall, I would like to think that the people who happen to be at my funeral, can say to themselves, not to anybody else, you know, he led a good life, he did well, and I don't know. I should have maybe had a copy of these to think about. They're hard.
I did send you them.
When? Oh, ages ago. I don't know where it is. Um, okay, sorry, but I have to do this. Just I want to be totally clear. So give me the question again.
Yeah, that's okay. Don't worry about it. The question is, what do you want people to say about you at your funeral?
I just like them to say that uh, that I had a good life, that and they can appreciate the way my life evolved, and that they feel like uh, I had a positive effect on their own life. Uh, Obviously, people don't always do everything perfectly, and perfect being this thing that nobody could agree on, I suppose. But um, it's interesting because in a way, I think that people can do whatever they want to do and should be able to have all this success and happiness in their life. But the other part of me says, well, that's not really true. Um, People have different things happen to them which affect their life, which affect the way they're thinking. I'm proud. I'm proud of my accomplishments, and at the same time, I do sometimes reflect on things that could be considered failures. But I don't know. I don't know how many people get to the end of their life without some failures. I mean, it's just about how much you blow it up in your mind and how guilty you want to feel about it or how disappointed you want to feel about it. And I don't tend to spend much time on that because it's done. And it's like saying, I'm never going to fall down. Well, you know what? Sometimes you fall down and then you have the choice. You're going to stay there or you're going to get up.
That's right.
So, um, I don't dwell on it. I dwell on the reasons why things happen sometimes, which if anything is something I kind of regret. And I don't know how much energy I can put into trying to figure that out at this point. Like, why did that fail? Or why did this fail? Or why did I fail? Um, because you're going to sometimes, and you may not be particularly interested in why at the time. And then it gets to the point where you think, wow, I don't want to spend time on that now, trying to figure that out. But, pick yourself up and you carry on. And it's useful to do self evaluation because you most people I really think are trying to be the best they can be. They just got a lot of history, which affects their chance of success and what they uh, what they have success at. Um, I like that. Don't judge people. I mean, you can say you can look at them and say, I don't know how the hell they got there, you know, sleeping in a tent on Pandora Street, or you can just say, glad that didn't happen to me. Uh, you know,
Or what a blessing that I have a home. Or yeah,
absolutely, uh, because you didn't experience what they experienced, and if you had of, you might be right there in the tent with them, you know. So anyway,
so you'll be we'll be together at your funeral, but you won't be listening really. So
you don't know that.
Well, if everyone's done their job, then. Yeah. But I would just say to you that I think you've been a terrific grandfather to me, and thank you for that. And I would say you've also been a good mentor, and that's maybe something that I would say about you at your funeral. And so, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, it gets a little easier now.
Okay.
All right. Okay, these are the last three questions. If you could leave a special message to your children, grandchildren, and great grandchildren, what would you want to tell them?
Never quit trying to be the best you can be. Uh, if you don't like things about what you're doing, change it. Just take control of your life, um, because ultimately, who you become is based on the decisions you make. You might think somebody else is making them for you, but unless you go along, you're still going along with it, which means that it is your decision ultimately. With you're going to listen to all kinds of different advice and how to change, how to do this or be that. Uh, just listen to yourself and do what you want to do. Don't if you can picture what you want to do, just keep saying, do I still want to do this? Do I still want to do this? And just take a step at a time and get closer and closer till you can tell you're going to make it or you're going to be able to be successful. And like, don't give up. Because as soon as you give up, you're, you're kind of beating yourself up. You're basically acknowledging to yourself you can't do it or you don't care. Both are really negative. Try to always have some goals, whether it's living to 100 or an Olympic gold medal or whatever, or a diamond wedding anniversary. I don't know, whatever it is, have some goals, and sure, some of them will change, but don't just float along like you're some leaf in a river, and you go where the current takes you. To have that attitude, I think you're going to have disappointment. I think you're going to feel failure, and I think you're going to feel disappointed, because you're not a leaf in a river. You got a brain. You have the ability to really pretty much do anything you want. For some people, it would be a lot more improbable. Like I'm not gonna be running against Trump in the next election. So, you know, you have to be a bit realistic, and that's the trick. I mean,
Yeah, you can't be 5 foot and play on Team Canada basketball. It's not going to happen.
no. So yeah, be realistic. But if you have these feelings about what you want, then go for it. And if you don't make it, just shift a bit, go for something else. Try to have as many successes in your life as you can. Don't be unrealistic, like you said. If you're 5 feet high, you're probably not going to play for the Boston Celtics.
Yeah. So I think with what we were discussing earlier, there's two things I want to comment on what you just said. Is what came to my head when you're talking about that was, don't be complacent, or like complacency isn't an excuse.
Don't be a victim.
And don't be a victim. Okay. And it kind of goes back to what you're talking earlier in this session about, which was just be aware, be present. It was another good way. And the other thing I like that you said is advice that's like 2,000 years old now, I believe. I think it was Epictetus that said it. It was like a Greek or a Roman. And he said something along the lines of, if something is humanly attainable, it's attainable for you too. And it's kind of what you're saying, right? If you want to do something, go ahead and try to do it.
Yeah.
I think that's a good message you left. Okay, I'm doing these interviews, so I put in one question for me that I get to ask with each of my grandparents. And this one is, what's your favorite memory with me, and what do you hope for me concerning my future?
Well, uh, my favorite memory.
Yeah, with me.
Oh, it would be times that we shared together, all the way from uh, me taking you to the wildlife park when you probably can't even remember it except from the picture, to me, to this special time in my life when I for whatever reason, you were in Victoria, I was in Salt Spring, but you know, I had a lot of memories of things like the kayak or swimming or so I felt like just because of the way things were, maybe it had a lot to do with who I was, of course, and how young I was, and maybe I had more energy, or I looked at it differently. But uh, I like to think that a lot of those times contributed to who you are, um, and it shifts because then what happens? I think it's then what happens is it's a this is a bit weird, I guess. I don't even know. But you do have different relationships with different people. Different, you're going to have a different relationship with each child, with each grandchild. And so when you have a child or a grandchild, it there's definitely it's almost like a honeymoon effect. You know what I mean? Because always
Elaborate.
well, while you're experiencing something you haven't experienced before,
Hmm.
and
And they're a new being that didn't exist before.
that's right. So
So what's the weird part?
well, just to contemplate the fact that where's she going?
Probably walk the dog or something.
Yeah, probably. Just give me the question again now.
It was if you could.
Yeah,
Sorry. What's your favorite memory with me, and what do you hope for me concerning my future? So I just want to touch quickly, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
My favorite memory with you is, what was your address at Old Scott Road?
360.
360 360B Old Scott Road.
Yeah.
And I just remember always being so excited and happy about getting in my dad's van, even if it was getting on the ferry, driving all through Salt Spring, drive through Fulford, drive through Ganges, and then we get to your place. And I remember, like, my favorite memory is like being on that seashell beach and in that kayak with you. And I think there's a photo actually of me, you, and my brother in the kayak. And I think
it's in the book.
I think that's my favorite memory with you. Ireland was also terrific, but if I could pick, it was definitely that kind of eclipses a very shiny part to me of happiness in my childhood.
Yeah. I mean, really, those are the highlights of people's lives. My life, if we're talking about me, which we are, is you really cherish times like that. Or when we climbed that mountain in Ireland.
That was really cool too. Yeah. Highest tallest mountain in Ireland. Just so you guys know, we did that. Tallest mountain in Ireland.
Yeah. But if I was giving advice to my grandkids, kids, get out there and do stuff, accomplish things.
Mm-hmm.
Make a list if you have to. Write it down if you have to. What do you want to do? What do you want to do in the next year? What do you want to do in the next 5 years? What do you want to do before the end of your life? I mean, I think I'm content as I am because I've done just about everything I wanted to do. Really. And after you run 2 marathons, you think, oh, that's enough. I don't need to do that again. Or, well, I've been to Ireland 4 times now, and it was very special every time. But now that's when I think, well, maybe I could go back again. But anyway.
So the second part. From what I'm hearing, your favorite memory with me was, we kind of both agreed, kind of in those kayaks was a really special experience in Ireland. And then the follow-up was, what do you hope for me concerning my future? This is just particular to me. It's just me and you part.
Well, I just, you're not any different than my other grandchildren or the other people that are descendants or, and, and, and descendants, I lump them all together because you always want more for the people for your children, for your grandchildren. Most people want more for them than your friends or whatever. It's like I don't get that attached to what my friends do. I just go, oh, I guess whatever. That's because of blah blah. But you really feel that you want to do what you can for your children and your grandchildren. And there is only so much you can do, but you want them to be happy and you want them to be successful. And so think about it when you're deciding what you can do to facilitate that. Because I know you have memories of me and your other grandparents, just like I do with my grandparents and my parents. And the things that they did, the decisions they made, the contributions they made to your life, they're they're all part of why I can sit here feeling like I had a good life. Um, I feel satisfied. I feel, I don't dwell on things that other people can say. Well, what about this or what about that or this didn't work out for you that much. And yeah, sure. Nobody's going to go through life, virtually nobody, with 100% record of making the right decisions and stuff. I mean,
Yeah. All right.
I don't know.
So it sounds like you just hope that
I hope all
I have my successes.
That's right.
And that I'm happy at the end of the day.
Yeah, I really hope all my descendants, children, grandchildren, can look back on their life at 76 years old and feel good and feel like they did what they wanted to do. And so,
Okay.
that's it.
Okay. Last question. Is there anything you'd like to add? That's it. Pretty easy one. Anything? And if no, that's fine too.
Well, obviously, when you give me a question like that, it's something. I suppose a lot of people could just spontaneously blurt out a lot of stuff, but just give some time every day to what you want, what you're doing, what you want to change. You don't have to make big steps, but move towards it. If that's what you really want, move towards it. Do the things that are going to facilitate that. And there may be things that you decide you want that you then accomplish or attain, but later you're going to say, yeah, maybe that wasn't a great idea. But that's okay. I mean, don't beat yourself up about it. Just make a course correction and change. Be the best you can at the areas of your life that mean a lot to you. And doesn't mean you're always going to be successful. Doesn't mean you're not going to screw up. But don't give up. So,
well, thank you. I just want to say that I love you, and the day you go, I'm gonna miss you a lot. At least it was said is how I felt, but just kind of rounding it out. I mean,
and somebody's gonna listen to that in 50 years and go, he laughed. Well, because I don't know, it's not the kind of thing I don't focus on it at all. I know a lot of people do. A lot of people worry about being not well or getting some irreversible disease or whatever. But I don't. I just because that would be a shame to spend that kind of energy on today. It's not going to happen for 20 years, right? So
That's right. That's right. Okay. Well, I think that's it.
okay.
Okay, I'm going to end it. That's the last interview of this. Thank you so much, Grandpa.
I gotta go pee.